Welcome back to One Comic Book a Day, where we're covering Superboy issue 16 in the first story, The Strange Costumes of Superboy. It's one of these stories where we are given a mystery, and Superboy is going to explain this mystery through vignettes, small little stories that all probably could have worked better as a full, maybe 7-page versus the 10 to 12-page traditional length of a Golden Age superhero story. I actually don't have much of a problem with most of the stories being told except for the first one. It also has, kind of like the story we just covered about his school reunion, a story that's happening contemporary as he's telling these stories that is going to be solved. And once again, it has the fatal flaw that it's not as interesting as any of the 3 stories he had been telling, and that is our climax. So it's disappointing. God, I'm tired of bringing up a Superboy story or a Superman story as a really disappointing climax. So consistent. Though it is funny in an interesting and kinky way. So, Superboy is doing this interview. There are 3 costumes he has displayed. One where he's wearing a rainbow-colored costume, one with some prison stripes, black and white, and one where he's shiny gold. And he proceeds to explain why he wore each one of these costumes, while hinting at that the normal-looking Superboy costume he's wearing is also special. That 4th story being the main part climax of the story, what we're going to focus a little more time on compared to individually. Arguably, all 3 of these stories together get most of the brunt of the story. So we have him saving a bunch of explorers in Africa using the rainbow and making the tribesmen, the black tribesmen, think a god is angry with them. So not great there. So not great there. Some very troubling tribesman depictions. Once again from these 1950s writers, because of course. We have the 2nd story, which involves like a fake Superboy, and he uses his powers to show that he's actually a criminal. So that's actually not too different from a lot of Superboy stories we get, other than the fascinating costume bit. And finally, one where he needs to save a pilot in a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer sort of way, where he puts phosphorus material on his costume, which makes it glow bright so the pilot can just follow him and land safely. All these are fine Superboy stories and are entertaining for the most part for the 2 pages dedicated to telling those stories. I think you could have fleshed them out and you could have had a whole Superboy story instead of a bunch of mini stories. But where the comic sort of collapses is, once again, he hints at there's something special about his costume, and we get into a Lana Lang storyline with her trying to prove that Clark Kent is Superboy. And he, once again, gets out of it easily, using his Superman ventriloquism and explaining that he's wearing this costume because it's basically a gift from Superboy. What kind of gift? Well, for some reason, he needed to wear a costume made out of candy that he shares with his friends. So, no joke, this comic ends on a bunch of the kids we've never seen before other than Lana, eating the costume that Clark Kent was wearing. What a kink, man. No kink shaming here, but they're eating the clothes off of him. You don't see the underwear being eaten, but you have to assume that was being eaten as well. Oh, there's so many ways I can go with this that would be very perverted, but yeah, it's an interesting little ending. It's not a particularly interesting way to end it. It also doesn't really make sense why he's wearing that costume. It is an unsatisfactory mystery. Why is he doing that? It doesn't quite make sense to how he gets out of the mystery. He uses his super ventriloquism and powers to mess up the phone so he can act like Superboy is still at the interview, even though he has left the interview. He makes Lana still think he's there, so he's in 2 places at one time. So to go about this weird costume that he didn't have to be wearing, he could have changed clothes before returning there, before returning home and Lana finding him. It's just really weird, and it goes for like a fun little silly ending that was really unnecessary, that just kind of brings up more questions if you're not a child. Okay, that is it from Superboy, issue 19, The Strange Costumes of Superboy. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to get notifications when new videos up. I do this Monday through Friday, but Fridays is Bat Friday, where I cover Batman story and either Detective Comics or Batman. And until next time, let's ponder the question, whatever did happen to the boy of tomorrow? And why is he keeping these costumes? How many versions of his costumes does he have? And what kind of candy was that costume made out of that it held together for so long? Okay, have a great day.